Welcome to cEDH Deck Tech for the Wise Mothman. Now, I did mention that once the season ends, I'll be doing a deck tech from one of the decks played, and today my Mothman cometh it is, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. One disclaimer before we start: I know next to nothing about Fallout and its universe outside from some speedruns I watched, so this is a strict magic related review. Also, universes beyond do not bother me, so to the Mothman itself is a 1 in a soul tie, legendary insect mutant, free with flying, and whenever the Wise Mothman enters the battlefield or attacks, each player gets a rat counter. Whenever one or more non-land cards are milled, put a +1/+1 counter up to X target creatures, where X is the number of non-land cards milled this way. Now to explain what a rat counter, or radiation in this case, is, as this is the thing that should end the game. Radiation. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, if you have any rat counters, mill that many cards. For each non-land card milled this way, you lose 1 life and a rat counter. So you take Food Chain and one of our 2 main, in these colors obviously, Food Chain fodder like Eldrazi Friend Eternal Scourge or Mist Hollow Griffin, keep exiling them and casting them with Food Chains always netting 1 mana until infinite colored creature mana, and after that cast, exile, recast the Mothman a minimum of 100 times. A pretty easy and simple win, right? Or is it? On the upside, once you end the loop and, well, pass turns so your opponents can die, well, if they have removal for Mothman in their upkeep, it won't matter, since it is the radiation itself that will mill them out and kill them. However, there is a big downside too. They get to draw a card and go to their main phase, which means they have a chance, a small chance, but there is a chance to exile their entire library with either Consult or Tainted Pact, if they have it, and not die. I get to pass turn and watch everyone else die, because the thing is, you also, as the controller of Mothman, get those counters. It is a very specific situation, but it can happen, so keep that in mind, and maybe a free counter spell to ensure your ultimate irradiating victory. Now, in the deck I built, I also had a backup radiation line with Feral Ghoul, which is a 3 mana 2 and a black 2/2 zombie mutant with menace, and whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Feral Ghoul. When Feral Ghoul dies, each opponent gets a number of red counters equal to its power. Some of you already may see it, but let me make it simple. This card plus Phyrexian Altar and Gravecaller's special ability that you can cast it from the yard as long as you control a zombie. Oh look, Feral Ghoul is a zombie, which means you can cast it also 100 times and then kill Feral Ghoul to just give your opponents those radiation counters. However, I never even got close to this line, and maybe it's meant more for a higher power line instead of cEDH, so I do recommend you toss those 3 cards for something better. Now I know what you're all thinking, but Def, we have not had the full spoiler season yet for Fallout decks, which, is true, and I will make a review of that set when the time comes, but I believe the commander can stand on its own even without the rest of the deck revealed. I still am obviously going to get the deck for my casual games because, I like alternate win conditions, and maybe one day I will revisit it for cEDH. Who knows? The future is bright, and whatever they may print may affect what happens. Now back to the deck. I had obviously 2 additional non-Food Chain lines in the deck since we are in great color pairing of Soul Tie. So yes, Vass's Oracle and Consult Tainted is an auto-include, but I also did include a Hermit Druid and Tyvar Jubilant Brawler line, because with these 2 cards, or even an early Hermit, you can, mill your deck, look no basics, and reanimate Foracle. So these are like the main lines for the deck on how to win. Now let's look under the hood to see what else is in the deck to get us to that victory, going from bottom to top. My mana base is a typical 28 singleton, dual lands, battle bond lands, shock lands, fetch lands, along with my 3 favorite utility lands, Boseiju, followed by Otawara, and of course my favorite Cephalic Colosseum, and some 5 color lands and even 2 canopy lands, just in case. Again, we don't need basics here. If you don't run Hermit, you can obviously run some basics, 1 for each color. Enchantments, well, we do have the namesake Food Chain, which is, the main enchantment that we need, but we also have some typical draw enchantments like Mystic Remora, Aristic, and Silver Library. We are a little mana hungry, so Carpet of Flowers is usually my favorite to include, but it is a flexible slot, and Animate that is a very good enchantment for reanimating. As far as artifacts are concerned, I have the typical line of Mana Rock, Script, Arcane Signet, the Moxen, all the good stuff. We have also the One Ring to draw some more cards, the Phyrexian Altar, as I mentioned, which you can throw away and replace with something else. But I do like that I had an alternative sneaky win condition here as well, with Altar of the Brood. Since you're casting your food chain creatures over and over, now you can mill your opponents out without the radiation. And if you have a Doffy Voidwalker in play, why not just exile everything instead? But again, this is more of a personal taste, and again can be a flexible slot when you decide to build the Wise Mothman. As far as instant speed and on the stack interaction, we have removal like Abrupt Decay, Cyclonogryph, we have plenty of counter spells, tutors, typical Consult Tainted Pact, as I mentioned, but also Noxious Revival and Turn the Earth. So if you mill yourself out and do not win with these in your hand and Turn the Earth in your yard, you might buy yourself a second chance, wink wink. And finally, Ad Nauseam, because we are also an Adnos deck, but remember, this is a mid-range deck, so Adnos responsibly at the end of your opponent's turn, so you can untap with all the cards you have put into your hand with Ad Nauseam. I do usually run around 8 counter spells, as you can see. Some of these are more of a personal choice, as always, I have my ways of building a deck, but there can be a preference you can always add or subtract. Also, let's get back to Demonic Consultation for a second. Since our commander is a food chain win con, we can at times risk it for the biscuit and consult for food chain. Hopefully, while we're exiling cards to get to that food chain, we will exile one or the other of our food chain creatures, get the food chain which we can then cast and go for the win. But beware, as always, this is a risk. You may exile your food chain, and that means you can exile your entire deck, and people have died to their own Demonic Consultation, hence the Forbidden Tutor aspect of it. So consult with care. As far as sorceries are concerned, mostly tutors like Imseal, Mirror for Food Chain Ring, Mean Betrayal to use your opponent's card, Toxic, Deluge to wipe out everything else. We also have Neoform and Eldritch Evolution and Finale for that surprise Foracle ETB, and or Food Chain Creature. And Extract is one of my favorites here. Can be also a flexible spot, but I just like to include it in non-red food chain decks, because sure, for 1 mana I'll exile one of my food chain creatures and keep it safe until I need it. Sure, you can also use it as a hate piece, but 99% of the time it's meant for a food chain creature for you. Also, it's a blue tutor for a creature, which is interesting in a way. Speaking of creatures, I did mention the food chain creatures, the Hermit, the Foracle, the Doffy. Everything else is basically dorks, Destiny Spinners to ensure that food chain and creatures will be uncounterable, Opposition Agent to hate on opponents' tutors, Bowmaster, auto-include to hate on greedy draw decks, Eternal Witness, great utility creature, Flesh Duplicate is my new favorite clone. And I did mention you can toss the Crawler out of deck to make more space for another maybe Mana Dork or something. With that, we only have one Planeswalker, which I mentioned is Tyor, is to help with our Hermit Druid line. But again, you can always adjust the deck to suit your needs. I do know that many Sultai decks also like to run Calling Ritual, which is an awesome card, but it does not really help us, because we cannot cast our commander from just Calling Ritual mana. We might be able to cast from things in our hand, but again, that's a personal reference when I like to have at least the option to cast also my commander with the Calling Ritual mana if nothing else is possible. And yeah, that is the deck. As with all my decks, I keep them on my Moxfield page. I put them in my Swan Song folder because I use them and I have them there ready to be brought back. But you can see them on the main page, and as always, feel free to copy a list you like and adjust it to your own playstyle. I have learned a lot by building decks, and I keep learning more and more, and test various things that I find interesting, and playing around and around and around with different cards, and I encourage you to do the same. It's also like one of the second most fun things to do while playing cEDH, except for recording games for you. As far as mulligans are concerned, well, that is a hard question, depending on pot composition, your placement, etc, etc. But you want to make sure you get something in your hand that is like, you know, an early ad nauseum, an early card draw engine, early way to do your food chain line, maybe tutors. Keep an eye on those when you're mulliganing. Maybe some way to control the game, you know, ensure that somebody doesn't win before you get a chance. And always look for the way to assemble your pretty combo and deal an irradiating punishment. On a final note, is the deck fun? Yes, even with its problems. It may not be the best Sultai food chain deck, but it is unique and can deliver some fun game-ending scenarios. And maybe some fun things for your playgroup as well. Would I take it to a tournament? Nope. But outside of that, who says we can't have fun while we win in cEDH, right? Now, if you have enjoyed what you saw, consider joining my Patreon. And remember to leave your comments and concerns in the comment section below. I might read them. And I will see you all, hopefully, behind the veil.